Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing very well today. So today's video I am not excited to do because I'm going to be sharing with you the palettes that I would totally return to get my money back. And this is not a very positive topic because again, this is talking badly about some of these products, but you know, it's good to kind of analyze our purchases and think deeply about whether or not we made good and wise decisions with making some of these palette purchases. I have quite a few palettes here that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. I do want to do a disclaimer though. If any of these palettes are some of your holy grail palettes or they're favorite palettes of yours, please, 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 no shade, absolutely no shade. This is just my opinion and how these palettes have worked for me, right? This is just my perspective with these palettes. And so I do want to mention that because again, you know, this is just my opinion and how they have worked out for me. Something that I was also going to say is that if I can, I will link some of these palettes down below. Some of these are really great quality palettes. That doesn't mean that I don't recommend them. They just haven't worked out for me. But I realize that it doesn't make sense for me to link them. But just in case you are interested, I will link them. Some of the links may be affiliated links. If you do shop through those links, I will receive a small commission. And if you do, I thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. However, as always, there's no pressure. Just want to let you know that those links will be there. So let's go ahead and get started. This is in no particular order. I'm literally just talking about palettes and I just kind of pulled some out from my collection. So first off, I had it upside down. First off, we have the Colourpop and Pokemon palette. This is the Palette Town eyeshadow palette, which is such a unique name or original creative name because this is a town in Pokemon. So here's the packaging. Everyone knows probably that I picked this up because of the packaging, right? I was not really interested in this color story at all, but I did really, really want to pick this one up because my husband is the biggest Pokemon fan. And I also really do like Pokemon myself, but it's definitely because of him. It's an extension because he does enjoy it so much. And I really, really loved the inside of the palette because my husband's favorite Pokemon is actually Psyduck. So I don't know, I just really fell into the hype with this one. I picked it up mainly because of the fact that he loves Pokemon so much and I of course love him so much. So I thought that picking up this collection would be just kind of a fun way to remind me of him, things like that, but I definitely didn't need this one. My favorite Pokemon is actually Squirtle. I love Squirtle so much. He is so freaking cute. But the reason that I regret this one and I actually would want my money back is because this palette actually did not perform very well, in my opinion. I really, really struggled with some of the mattes in this palette, but not only that, the shimmer shades were also very unimpressive in my opinion. And I said this actually in the previous Get Ready With Me that I posted using the Frosty the Snowman palette from Colourpop, that I feel like Colourpop has gone downhill with some of their formulas. I feel like ever since they switched to these larger panned eyeshadows, I feel like the quality has really just gone downhill from there. I feel like it's very hit and miss. Sometimes I really, really love the quality that I can get from Colourpop, and then other times, in particular with this palette, I just didn't love it. So unfortunately, I would definitely take my money back. I'm happy to have it because again, it's super cute. It has my favorite Pokemon as well as my husband's, but we have so many other ways to show our love for our favorite Pokemon. I have my Squirtle Squishmallow. He has his Psyduck Squishmallow. So I just didn't need this. No, I didn't need it. So I would definitely take my money back. This one hurts a little bit because I really wanted this palette to support this creator, but I have had so many issues with this palette, and honestly, I have heard as well that Odin's Eye has just not the best eyeshadow formula at the moment. They really need to work on their matte, and that's actually where this palette falls short for me. And this is the Sea Talk palette, which was a collaboration with Lauren May Beauty. I do still watch her. However, I'm not a huge fan of her as I used to be. The color story is still gorgeous. However, it's just, the formula is so hit and miss with me. I feel like the navy blues get so patchy on my eyes, and then whenever I wear these shimmer shades on the lids, I just feel that they completely crease on me like crazy. I feel like that doesn't happen to me that much, so whenever it does happen and it's very noticeable, I do tend to keep that in mind, because again, it's not something that's happening to me very regularly. So as much as I was happy to support Lauren and, you know, with this collab, I'm just not super impressed with this formula from Odin's Eye. I've had again, a hard time with this formula that I kind of would want my money back, to be honest. And also, I just miss this Lauren. I really do. I feel like she's a little bit different now without throwing any shade. But anyways, another palette that I kind of bought it totally on a whim. I wasn't really thinking, I just kind of purchased it. I thought it was very beautiful, and so I decided to pick it up. This is another Colourpop palette. This is the On Cloud9 palette. Very cute packaging with the clouds and everything, but this one again kind of fell short for me. I feel like I much prefer the 1111 palette from them, and I feel like this was kind of like the cool toned response to the 1111 palette, because I want to say this one came out after that palette, and this formula just fell short for me. I feel like this kind of blended into a just kind of muddy mess, and I don't know, I just am very bummed that I purchased this, because I do feel like I would much rather have my money than have this palette in my collection. So this is another Colourpop palette, sadly, that I would definitely return for my money back. This is very sad, because you guys know how much I love Natasha Denona, but the Zindo palette from her is a mess. I totally regret that I purchased this, and I do wish that I had my money back from this one, especially because I want to say this palette runs maybe $55 to $65. I don't think I paid that price, because I want to say I purchased this during Black Friday, but I am just not a fan of this color story. I feel like I struggle when I look at this color story, and I struggle with coming up with different looks. It's also not the Natasha Denona formula that we all know and love. This one just falls short for me from her. I feel like it could be so much better, in my opinion. So I would much rather not have this palette in my collection and just get my money back. You know what I mean? So that one is sad, because you know how much I love Natasha Denona, but I also want to be honest that that palette was just not worth it to me. Then I have two Glamlite palettes, and I really enjoy Glamlite. There's nothing wrong with the formulas of these. These are just palettes that I do not use from them. This one I actually have never even used. This is the Glamlite and Michaela palette. This is the first one. I do not support Michaela. However, I did find this one at TJ Maxx. It's absolutely stunning. I really wanted this one and was on the hunt for it at TJ Maxx because of the purples in here, but I have not used this, and I think I've had this for over a year, maybe even 2 years, and I've never used this. So that should tell me right there that I did not need to purchase this one. This, I probably would have gotten maybe $30 to $20, maybe $25 to $30 back if I did not purchase this. So I would want my money back for sure, rather than owning this palette. Another Glamlite palette is the Ice Cream Dream palette. While this is super cute, while the formula is really great, while the color story is absolutely stunning, I just don't use this. I do not use this. This is very colorful for me. I feel like I am okay with color, but I like something that's a little bit more like where I can like make it look kind of neutral, but it's still color, if that makes sense. I feel like Bella Beauty Bar does a really great job of doing that. And this is just one that I'm not reaching for. It's also so big. It is a massive palette, and storing big palettes in a larger collection can be quite difficult sometimes. So both of these palettes from Glamlite are pretty big, and I would much rather have my money back than own these two palettes from them. Okay, this is a palette purchase, unfortunately, this year, and I really regret this one. I actually spoke about this one in a products I regret buying video, and it's the Denessa Myricks. This is the Groundwork Blooming Romance palette. So she did come out with the Groundwork palette last year, I want to say, and it's more neutral. And then this is the kind of blushy tones, which is like the volume 2 of the Groundworks palette. And I regret buying this so much. I never ever use this one. This one is an all matte palette. It has both cream and powder formulas within it. Very beautiful. I also feel like if you're a makeup artist, this makes sense to have within your collection because you can use this for blush, you can use this for eyes, you can maybe even use this for lips, right? It is a multi-purpose palette, but for someone like me who usually dips into only one palette when they do their makeup, I just don't use this. This totally just unfortunately sits in my collection. It is not something that I've used. I think I've used this once and swatched it a couple of times. It is such a regret. And I want to say this cost maybe almost $70. I would totally want my $70 back. 100%, no question, hand it over. I will get my $70 back. Like, that's what I would want. So just, why did I buy that? Then this makes me really sad because I love Sydney Grace. I really, really love Sydney Grace, but I do not use these palettes from them. The first one is the Be Mine palette. I want to say I spoke about this maybe in my products I regret buying video. This I got on a major sale, and so I wouldn't really get that much money back, to be honest, but this is just one that I did not need to buy. This color story is very just odd to me. Like I look at this and I struggle with what I could create because I feel like there's a lot of deeper tones in this palette and not enough mid-tones, which I personally need to create an eyeshadow look. And I just don't love this color story. And even though I think I added it on for like $6 or $7, I just wish I didn't have it. You know what I mean? Like, this is just not a palette that I reach for. And so I probably should declutter this one, but I have such a hard time parting, especially with indie palettes, because the formula is so good. And Sydney Grace's formula is so good that I should probably just declutter this though, but here we are. The second Sydney Grace palette is the Heaven on Earth palette. I was honestly a little bit sad to even mention this in today's video because this is such a beautiful palette and the color story is so beautiful. I love greens. The blues in here are really pretty as well, but I don't use this. I never use this. I think I used this once and I've had it for probably over a year. And that is so sad to me. I feel like I have so many palettes in my collection that I have used so much. I think about the Bella Beauté bar palettes that I've brought into my collection this year and how many times I've used them that I feel like I do not need like palettes like this that I'm not reaching for. It's just so sad to me. I think what it is that Sydney Grace, while they have the most beautiful, yummy formula, they're just not that glitzy glam type of palette. And I feel like because of that, I'm always going to want to reach for something that's a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more glitzy and glammy, you know? So I feel like sometimes my Sydney Grace palettes can get overlooked, which is really sad because it really is such a great formula. But yeah, I feel like with these two Sydney Grace palettes, I would rather have my money back, to be honest. Okay, this one hurts because I was so excited to try the Viseart eyeshadow formula, and last year, I think it was, I picked up the Viseart Cashmir palette. Really cute packaging. It's giving Thanksgiving to me. And here's what this one looks like. You look at this, and this looks like a color story that I would love. It screams like cool tones, neutrals to me, but this palette, for some reason, I just don't love this. It is very, very deep. There's not a lot of mid-tones in here. This one is kind of a mid-toned, but not really. And I feel like because of that, this is just not a palette that I use very often. I feel like I get overall a very deep look with this one, and I, again, really like something that's more mid-tone so that I can get a full complete look, and I feel like this one is just not giving that to me. So even though I am happy to have a Viseart palette in my collection, I feel like I would much rather have my money back for this one rather than owning it and having it in my collection. Okay, just a few more palettes to go. So this palette is the Nars palette. This is the Summer Unrated palette, and I want to say, again, I purchased this for close to $60, if not over $60, and I do not use this one that much. This is a nice formula, it really is, but for some reason I do not reach for this. This was even pulled into like my summer eyeshadow palette basket. I did use it this year, but I only reached for it maybe one time, and this is such a beautiful palette that I need to stop holding on to this, and I should probably just declutter it because, again, I'm not reaching for it. But this really is a great formula. It's just, I would rather have my $60 back. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great formula. It's a great, just kind of beautiful everyday color story, but I would rather have the money back if someone was asking. You know what I mean? So yeah, unfortunately, I feel like I would always want to have this palette though, because of the fact that it's Nars, and it's nice to have different formulas so I can kind of get acquainted and familiar with different formulas. But that doesn't mean I need to keep this around. You know what I mean? It is my only Nars palette though, so it is something that I think about. But yes, I think I would prefer to have my money back for this one too. A palette that you guys are probably gonna be like, what? Like, Sabrina, how could you want to get rid of this palette? Like, I guarantee you I'm gonna get that. But this is the Huda Beauty Naughty Nude palette. I know Huda is very, very loved as far as her eyeshadow palette goes, or eyeshadow palettes, I should say. And I actually did pick up the Icy Nude palette from her, but it's currently at my mom's because I went on vacation and I wasn't sure if it was gonna come in time. So I have yet to play around with that palette, but I am literally drooling over it, so I can't wait. But the Naughty Nude palette from her, it is beautiful, don't get me wrong. But for some reason, I feel like all of the looks that you come up with this palette are the same. Like, I feel like there's no, like, what's it called? Versatility with this palette. I feel like everything that you come up with is the exact same. And because these are, it's not neutrals, like this actually does look like the same look. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for some reason, when you play with neutrals and the looks can be similar, it doesn't bother me that much because they're neutrals. They're very beautiful, and neutrals make me look very, neutrals make me feel very confident and makes me feel beautiful, right? Because I'm rocking something that I'm comfortable with. But whenever I'm wearing this, yes, it looks good, but then I'll go in with it the second day and I'm like, this is literally like, I feel like the same look that I just created. And because this is a little bit more colorful than just neutrals, I do feel like I notice the fact that it looks the same. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense, because in my head, I feel like that makes sense. But anyways, I would just rather have my money back. I like my other Huda palettes, but this one is just not a favorite of mine. And for some reason, this one just sits within my collection, and I would much rather have my, nearly $70 for this palette. Then we have this one, and this one is probably one that I would never declutter. It would have to be like, I would have to really, really hate it for me to declutter it, because I feel like I will always have FOMO over this palette specifically. But this is the Makeup by Mario. This is the first Ethereal Eyes palette. So this is the one that kind of started it all, if you will. It's definitely the one that's more neutral, and this one, it's the mattes for me. For some reason, I feel like these are just a muddy mess. I feel like I am never happy with the way that my eyeshadow looks when I use this palette. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror and these tones just drown me out for some reason. I feel like I look at my eye look, and while the shimmer shade looks absolutely beautiful, I feel like the matte just looks so muddy that it makes my eyes look really tired. I don't know what it is. I've played around with this a few times, and that's always the results that I have. So I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if it's just me. I have heard people just rave on and on about this one. So it probably is a me problem. But yes, I would definitely get my money back for this one. However, because I'm a Leo and I experience FOMO, I feel like I would probably never actually declutter this one because of how just Makeup by Mario is always spoken about on YouTube. So anyways, those are all of the palettes that I would totally return for my money back if I still could. Let me know down below, do you agree with me on any of these? Do you own any of these palettes? Do you feel like I'm wrong, that I should love them and use them more? Definitely let me know. Or if you agree with me, like you own the Natasha Denona Zindo palette, for instance, and you regret it, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, I would love for you to subscribe and be a part of my YouTube channel family here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye.